Dodging dentures. Ooh. This is actually a bestie story that was sent to us.
Fun.
Yeah, so let's dive in. In my first HR job, I was an employment manager for a hotel, a national chain. Turnover was through the roof. I myself have worked in hospitality, and I can confirm.
That was Jamie, and that is true.
We were a 3-person HR shop, and I was the middleman, of course. My boss was the director, and she was out of town on this particular day. The director of maintenance calls me and says that one of his maintenance employees, a second shift employee, showed up reeking of alcohol and was visibly impaired. I get it. My boss would have normally handled this on this day, but of course it fell to 25-year-old me to sit on this employee's termination. The maintenance director called the employee into our meeting and proceeded to explain that it was clear he had been drinking and that it was not acceptable for him to show up in this state. The employee acknowledged that he had been drinking, but argued it wasn't enough for him to be impaired. He had only had a 6-pack.
Fair point.
6-beer limit. At some point, I piped up and quoted the company policy mumbo jumbo. He got irritated with me, and in an effort to prove that he did not have too much to drink, he exclaimed, "You think I'm be smelling all like this?" And he reached into his mouth and pulled out his set of false teeth and flung them across the table at me.
Dodging dentures, indeed.
I dodged the teeth, and that pretty much sealed the termination deal. Happy to say that was a once-in-a-lifetime career event for me.
Oh, my, let's hope.
One should, well, I will say, at
Once
first
is enough.
Well, when you said sit in on the meeting, and for a second there, I thought you said sit on the employee, and I thought we were going in a different direction.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
It really is. It's like it's the cover up, not the crime, right? It's when you're having the conversation. I mean, admitting to a 6-pack is probably grounds to terminate, even in California, probably. But it's that cover up. It's the reaction to it. The throwing of the teeth just hit it.
I just find it insanely interesting that that's what he thought was going to be his out to this termination. Smell my teeth.
Oh my
God. That was your out?
He was probably hammered. His decisions were very impaired. He couldn't get a hotel room clean to save his life.
Oh, my God. And that was the evidence.
Yeah.
Stinky teeth.
Stinky teeth.
I'm just impressed that he admitted the drinking, because that's where the conversation tends to go. Have you been drinking?
Mm-hmm.
Have not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
you go, yeah.
Well, let me get in there. Let me smell real close to your breath. But the teeth.
Yeah, the
remained
teeth.
intact. How tough are dentures?
They're pretty tough.
I think they're pretty tough.
I mean, they last like 25, 30 years.
Huh.
I mean, I'm sure like with enough force they'd break, but I don't know.
Can you imagine then? He's like gumming.
I know, he's just gumming at her.
I'm thinking like OSHA, workers' comp, like you're throwing your teeth at me.
Oh gosh, could you imagine if they would have hit her and like she got cut and then like writing that up?
Oh my God.
I am grateful
bodily fluid.
I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry that she had that experience, but I am very grateful that she submitted that to us, because that's some real content.
Dodging dentures.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of HR Besties. Let's get this meeting started. First up, we have Cringe Corporate Speak, and Ashley is going to supply that to us. And then we move into the hot topic, and today's hot topic is all about why job postings suck. And that is a very easy and long list to come up with.
How many hours?
Exactly. How many hours?
Running meeting.
I hope you have a long commute as you listen to this.
Gone with the wind length.
And then, of course, we'll transition into questions and comments right before our hard stop. So take it away, Ashley. Cringe Corporate Speak.
Okay, Cringe Corporate Speak for today is screw the pooch.
Nope.
Full stop. And thankfully it's a comment, not a question. Screw the pooch. But screw the pooch, for those, whether you've heard it or not, is really kind of fucking up at work, making a mistake. I really screwed the pooch. Thoughts?
It's like the PG, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Or you're fucking
really.
Is it, though? It's like bestiality. I mean, it's like really gross to
PG.
me.
What kind of movies are you taking your kids to see? Because I'm not. That's NC-17.
I mean, screwing means doing, no? I mean, does it mean something else and I just don't get it?
No.
It means like I'm doing the dog.
No, well, screw the pooch.
Per usual, I've taken upon myself to do some research. And I did find the origins and include someone to find it. And they're like, it's basically effing a dog. And I'm not going to say the full word because it's like that's really wrong. But the origins come from NASA. And it was an
That's
Apollo,
out of this world.
and it was the astronauts who I have to imagine, like when you're up in space, like we're together recording this and we kind of keep it loose. If I'm in a real tight, confined space, you probably do have some weird thoughts in your head. But so one astronaut said it to the other.
Tight, confined space.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. But they made it off comment, like, oh, you really screwed the pooch. And so but then that comment was made. And so it became popular in Tom Wolfe's book, The Right Stuff, which is about the astronauts, because when they were doing research, I'm sure just like we got this content from the reader, the astronauts were like, listen to this shit that he said in space. And so that it became popular, I believe in the late 70s with that book and or whenever that back
was there not on Apollo, but has there not been space dogs? Like, I'm pretty sure there has been dogs in space.
What
like, named Buddy.
So are you saying they're doing dogs in space?
Yes.
Is that what you're claiming?
And
that's how I took it when you started that, okay,
yes, no,
Ashley? I was on the same wavelength that they were doing dogs in space is how I took it.
Yes, there has been dogs.
Started.
No, it was like dirty
in Russia. Yeah, a Soviet space dog was one of the first animals in space. I can't pronounce the name. But yeah, so there have been dogs in space. So that's like literally when you said it came from NASA, like that's where my head went.
No, it was better. It was like
astronauts do dogs.
Thankfully it was like
well,
pilot.
then you said tight and confined, and I blacked
That's
out.
What she said. That's what she said.
No. Oh my God, like Rosie, my dog Rosie. If you see her on my social media, she's my number one colleague. She sticks with me at all times. Although she does prefer Jamie now to me, and now even Leigh. I can get a bear to leave the house. She wouldn't get like.
Oh, she ain't going into space.
Why do you? But what? And also, like, what? Like doing a bunch of like dog poop in the space.
Well,
I
know. They put diapers or their vacuums that just suck the poop out. And that would happen with the astronauts?
I guess. I don't know.
Space poop.
But if you say screw the pooch, don't say it. If you make a mistake, if someone else makes a mistake, nobody's screwing a pooch.
It gives me the ick.
I'd rather hear, Ashley, you really fucked up than
exactly.
Screwed up. Like, I did not. I plead not guilty. Not guilty ever of that crime.
Yeah, I'd prefer to drop an F-bomb there as opposed to screwing animals in the workplace.
You could also take option C, which is like to, have questions and have a real conversation.
Oh, I guess.
But
I guess that's productive.
But if we're going to give each other the choice between A and B, I would take B, not A.
Or D, like fix the problem instead of just exclaim like, I screwed up.
Crazy,
I know, we're getting crazy now. We're getting totally crazy.
That's it. So hopefully sometimes when we hear cringy corporate speak, like circle back and those things, people will message and they're like, oh, I'm literally in meetings laughing when I hear it. If someone says that in a meeting, stop them right there and say, my bestie said that is illegal. Literally,
it is.
Illegal.
It is illegal.
Don't say that.
Especially in space. Those poor dogs. Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, we learn a lot here. We really do. Oh my gosh, we learn a lot. But our hot topic today is all about why job postings suck. Why do they suck? Do we know? Are there too many reasons?
Well, you guys know I love to roast a job posting. And it could be for various reasons, right? So usually the most popular are the giant salary bands that they put 0 to 750,000. So those really make me roast them because, thankfully we do have some states now that have gotten on board, and even cities that have gotten on board with salary transparency. But really just remember, companies, to put real bands and not $750,000 difference from, I would say, number one right there.
That's a good number one.
Yeah, just for the record, I'm on the high end of that.
Okay. Yes.
Like every
Oh, of
other
course.
freaking candidate.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. Right. They're going to say, tell me, you'd say,
Yeah. So yeah,
750.
like the first question you ask, how much would you like to make in this position? Oh, well, on the posting,
as much
Exactly.
as possible.
750,000. So
Thank you.
that's what I want.
Thank you. Well, I think part of it is like when you think about a job posting is organizations do not think of it as what it is an advertisement. An advertisement. So take this and think about all the marketing dollars that go and agencies that go into your commercials for your customers, your clients. Think about putting that level into it to attract those individuals and have it actually be like, some organizations call it talent attraction. But just stop and go and look in your careers page. So we had an exercise like this previously. Let's do this. In your next executive team meeting, pull up your careers page and start looking through your job postings and think, to me, is there anything in this that makes me proactively, respect this organization, think it's interesting? Or is it like your recitation of like your duties, have these things? It's because frequently that's what it is. It's people put very little proactive thought that this is your first opportunity to seize the attention of potential candidates.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's an absolutely excellent point. And a lot of them, it becomes like this laundry list of everything.
Oh, yes.
Right. I mean, and so candidates are left with like no clue what the job even is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read some, especially on the LinkedIn, and it's just like, what?
The
like,
LinkedIn?
The
it's
LinkedIn. Like the Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like the Costco. So I say, I'm going to the
Walmarts.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. But it's like, what the hell is this job? And that's where I think you could really, number one, stand to actually edit these things before you post them. Because some out there are like 20, 30 years old. Those are always a fun read, Parts of the business don't even exist anymore, but they're in the job posting and stuff. Like, it's just
Floppy
funny.
drive.
Exactly. And then you'll fax people and floppy drive this and then, send a smoke signal or something. But some are just really like old and out of date. But it just goes on and on and on and on with all those, responsibilities, or qualifications.
Yeah, it's
and
literally
all of
like 70 bullet points. It's so unnecessary.
Well,
Exactly.
because sometimes, I've literally seen this when you have a job posting and you have people edit and these cooks in the kitchen. Well, this is, what I care about for this job is X. But what are some of the phrases that you'll see in job postings that you like?
So that's
fast paced.
That's my number two.
Okay.
That's the it. It's the fast pace. But it's also the ones that try to. I don't know what they're trying to do, to be honest. Are they trying to appeal to Gen Z? But we're looking for a rock star go-getter.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, fucking stop. Just say you're looking for an HR business partner. Like, do not call me a rock star warrior queen slay. Like
HR diva.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on HR diva. But those are the ones that kill me because they just give me the ick when I read them. And I'm like, stop. I get what you're trying to do, but don't.
But then honestly, that culture and org is not for you.
Yes.
See? So
Yes.
it totally worked.
It might be for someone though.
Maybe.
It might be. And it might be for someone, well, it absolutely might be, but it also might be for someone that their number one interest in this point in life is making as much money as possible. And if that's not always what goes with fast pace, sometimes it's actually the opposite. But sometimes that's people, they're in that season of life and they just want to make as much money as possible. And they do not have obligations outside of work that they need to think about. And they're willing and able to account for all these levels. But I do think it's important, and whether in the job posting or at other steps, and we'll get to other steps in the interview process because job postings is enough for about 17 episodes, but is the job postings is this aspect of fast-paced and things like that. But thinking about the sustainability, so you're bringing these people in, but what's going to make someone long-term? And so if I'm reading a job description, for me, and I actually think for a lot of people, instead of saying fast-paced, saying at times you'll have to, at times you'll be, your day will be changed because something will come up, you'll have to deal with it. We want you to be able to be decisive, but also we don't want you to feel like you're rushed to make a decision that you don't stand behind later. But like comments like that, again, maybe truncate that a little bit, pop it into ChatGPT, which is a great tool for job postings, for giving different ideas of thinking about things. But if you talk to people in real time and objection handle, and rather than just saying like fast pace, saying to people, like, we're also going to rely on you for your discretion. And that doesn't mean that you respond in 5 seconds. Sometimes you need to think about it for a couple days. And that's okay too. It's all about open and honest communication. I see that job. I think a lot more people would apply to that than those that just use the same in, same out. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And but then you also have the job applicants too that are like just blanket applying to anything that fits their title and not even reading through too. So then you get them in the interview and they're like, okay, so like tell me about yourself, tell me about the job. And they have no fucking idea what they even, easy applied to, especially on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no,
Guilty
absolutely.
myself.
Yeah, I mean, because I was about to ask. I mean,
Guilty myself.
Were we supposed to read the whole job posting on an easy apply? Because I don't.
That's a good thing though for like me. Like for instance, I'm going to be posting a job here shortly for someone on my team. And when I was writing the job description, because it's a brand new position, when I was writing the job description, I made sure to be very cognizant of the words I was using and not the fast pace. And because I want it to be, I don't want to glamorize it. I want to be honest, but I also want to make it appealing enough. Like, fuck, you get to work with me, but I can't say that,
I mean, if I saw that and saw your picture, I mean, you never want to use pictures in those, but I'd be keen to apply. You're fine.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like, I want to be honest, but I also don't want to like sugarcoat it. I don't want to put 70 bullet points of everything and just clear, concise. And hopefully it's short enough that for those people that are, kind of going through and be like, easy apply, they see the highlights of what really matters and if they're a good fit, not title of human resource business partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think you used a really important word there, and that's the word honest. Right? Being honest. So I think we see, at least I do, and those HR pros out there, I'm sure you do as well, these like bait and switch postings. Right? I mean, just job postings full of lies. Like the job title may have remote in it, for example. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you have to be in office 4.5 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
Literally.
But you get half day Fridays to be remote, right? I mean, so do we see that a lot? Do you all see that? Folks kind of
and I'm
lying.
Lucky people send them to me so I can roast them. But I mean, even Fox picked up one of my TikToks about it that, in the posting, it said admin assistant remote in the title. In the body where it's, kind of listing out, it says remote. It's that first paragraph that said, this position is to be in office 5 days a week. I'm like, that's not remote. Like, I get what you're trying to do. You're doing the little bait and switch.
It's remotely remote.
But yeah, it's remotely that you're sitting your ass in a cubicle.
It's to the point of honesty. It is write out the things of the job and write out information people should know. And that, for example, if you are a startup and your employees are going to be expected to work 70 hours a week, 65 hours a week, put that in there. And if you think, well, nobody would want to have this job, well, then stop and think about it. Do you want people to be able to expect that? Or are you compensating people accordingly? Is the equity, if you're giving equity in that situation, is that reasonable? Or is it so diluted they're never going to see it? But so thinking about like the warts and all of the job, and if you would put that out and people would not apply because of it, I do think it saves everyone a lot of time. Also, one thing for teams to put in the job description is what's the interview process going to look like? It shocks me to hear you all don't read job descriptions. Like,
Nope.
I read. I see. It's so enlightening. I mean, I read every single detail and think about it definitely. So again, some people will read, some people won't. 1/3 of people will read. Judged by our very scientific survey.
Harvard
Marissa over here, if she's producing this for us today. If she's in my camp or if she's with the people who need to read job postings. But is what that job process, what the interview process is going to be like. Again, put that down. Because if you're going to ask people to have 15 rounds of interviews, that's ridiculous.
Don't do that.
We will talk more about that. But if that's what your process is like, tell it. And so you don't even take that first screen. You don't take up someone's time on a screening call if you're going to ask them for things that just seem excessive and they're not going to commit to. So even spelling out more things, what the job is really like, but even what that interview process is like, in addition, will save everybody a lot of time.
Well, and I think too, to oh God, I almost said piggyback. To piggyback off that, I would say that I am constantly reminding hiring managers that candidates typically did not just apply to your job. They have applied to several jobs. And so they're probably interviewing multiple places. So being timely too, right? So making the interview process short and not having, a 2-month long interview process. You got to meet with this person, you got to meet with this person, and now you got to meet with this person. And just being very clear about what happens, after the initial phone screen. I'd love to bring you in, maybe not bring you in, but I'd love to get you scheduled for a Zoom team interview. And then after that, there may be one additional call, and then we'll move to X, Y, and Z, or we'll move to offer. Because that's one thing I'm constantly saying, like, make sure you put time open on your calendars so that you're able to schedule these interviews. If it is a position that you need to make sure that you leave those holes in your calendar for interviews, because good candidates do not last long.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. But I think to the job posting, Leigh, question I have for you is, as you think about things that would make you look at a job posting and think, yeah, I definitely want to apply to that, or questions as you get into a senior leadership role at times, there's not always job postings. And so one question is, as you think about internal and external candidates, do you post that job at all? And what are your thoughts on that, on whether you should post for different jobs if you have already identified an internal candidate and people say, let's just see what we're going to get? What do you think?
Oh, man, that's a good one because, of course, typical HR answer, it depends, right? Because it does, right? Even from a legal perspective and stuff, right?
Well, because also
it literally depends.
Sometimes, lawyer Ashley, there's roles like in the broadcasting industry, you have to have postings and you have to keep records on that. So there's actually literally sometimes, and I cannot give you advice on this, consult your, employment lawyer or Google. But there are some industries you literally have to have job postings.
Yep. And then like how much a job changes by, if it needs but like all these different things, level in an organization, is it appointment? Is it this? Is it that? I love transparency in the workplace, right? And I do absolutely love competitively posting things. But if it is a pure promotion, I'm not going to post that, right? That's why I say it depends, because it really does depend. You know what I mean? But I don't think it ever looks bad to post something internal only if you have a strong candidate internally and you make it competitive so people see there's opportunities, right? And I think you allow yourself as a hiring team, whether you're the hiring manager or HR professional, to be open to learn more about your talent internally as well and take that time because you may have another role or the backfill for the person you're about to promote or move into a higher level role or whatever. Things always are moving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's never going to hurt you to give people opportunity, except when you give them too much opportunity and you keep doing that shit. And it's like the person interviews 5 times and they never get promoted or that next job or role. And I'm like raising my hand. That's why I did like a little rant right there. And then that just becomes totally demotivating. So that's when it can work against you. So you have to be careful how you use that. It always depends in HR.
It does. It does. I mean, I did a video on that where a couple years ago I was promised a promotion, but it was a lean HR department. So when it was finally opened, it was the assumption that I was slated for that position. They interviewed me. Why? But because that was, I guess, what the policy was. And of course, my boss gave it to her best friend from another company. It's a really long story. Go on my TikTok if you want to watch the video because there's a lot more to it. But it's that. And I ended up staying at that company for additional like about 2.5 years after that. But yeah, I mean, it's I wish that she would have been honest with me. And it could have made my experience much different. Like even if she would have said, you know what, I don't think you're ready for it right now. Here are the steps that I want to put in place for you to grow you or whatever it was that I was passed up. And truthfully, I don't know if there was a reason because she gave it to her bestie.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate for me because of what were my next step or what was I going to do to grow in that position or even with that company.
But see, honesty.
It leads people out. And so I do think before you're going to, do you have internal candidates and what's that like? I mean, I remember hearing another organization once talk about this and talked about someone that was put into a position, and literally a top leader said, it was XYZ's position. It was really their position to lose. But we figured we'd see what was out there. And they lost out to a really candidate we're excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's like, don't say that out loud.
Something better.
Jeez.
And then so you are then demotivating that person and everybody else that thinks, like, okay, when it's my time, it's like Devil Wears Prada. Like, my time will come. Not likely, not there. But, you can't help it because sometimes leaders just screw the pooch.
There you go. I like that. That was good. That was still really icky. It felt wrong. But
yeah.
It does. It does feel
this
wrong.
This might be the first episode that I'm not able to say it.
I know, Jamie, usually you're the one that is good about keeping it top of mind.
Oh, damn. Well, I think we could all agree that job postings do suck, but they don't have to, right? I mean, just a little honesty in the process can go a long way, right? Okay. Well, we do have that hard stop, everybody. So before we move on to our next meeting, any questions or comments? Questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's it. That's my question.
All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Depends. It depends. That's a good answer.
It depends. See, I tell you.
It depends.
It does depend. It does depend.
My comment is likewise with job postings is some of the applications. And some of these, the questions, you can find plenty of them on humorous resources, Jamie's account or Horrendous HR. Some of the questions you see on there, I don't know who is like literally it'll be like, if you were to screw a pooch, what would that look like?
What breed?
Yes.
Oh God, a pug.
If your job.
Why do you have an answer for that so fast?
The answer is none. Cuddle. You meant cuddle. Cuddle. Okay.
Alrighty.
Please do not add that question to job postings. But look, some of the questions you see on job postings are so weird and so bizarre and just don't ask very personal, off-putting questions. What's the last book you read within the last year?
Geez.
And how did that change your life? Well, you're going to get some answers to that one. But just those questions where you're trying to stand out. Instead, talk proactively about your organization, please.
God, I hate that shit. Those cringy, weird questions there.
Yeah. And like, what about people like me who don't really read? Like, I'm going to reference a TikTok probably.
Well, I don't read, but
what's your favorite book? Normally I won't double up and ask too. But what's your favorite book? Okay.
You are really putting me on the fucking spot.
Okay. Magazine?
No.
Okay.
Mine is All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren.
Oh, that's a delightful.
Yeah, it's a Pulitzer. It's fantastic. I read Pulitzer. Dork. I just love it. But oh God, it's so good. Like what he does with words. Oh, okay. I know this isn't a book podcast.
Well, but we can always, it's important. I mean, I love A Separate Peace by John Knowles. Also Babysitter's Club, Little Sister number 5.
I know, I'm like,
dedicated to me.
Tree?
Dedicated to me as a little kid.
Oh,
it's a fun fact. But it's I love Babysitter's Club to this day.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Sorry. Now I've taken up like a good meeting. I've added an extra. You asked me for one, I gave you 2.
She's Carol in that meeting.
I know. She's keeping us from lunch.
One more. Let me jump on top
I
of that.
know, exactly. Just one last question.
Just one last. Shut the fuck up, Carol. We're hungry.
Oh, damn. All right. Well, not a question, but a comment. It's about the job postings. It's about just, bringing somebody in an organization. It is so key and critical to paint an accurate picture of what that person is going to walk into because of the cost of replacing that person, right? I mean, it is so key. I have personally been lied to so many times where people act sane and then you get into that workplace and it is the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not going to be a place I'm going to stick. You know what I mean? It's going to be the same for your candidates, right? So treat people like you want to be treated in a life-altering and changing decision like that. It is so important. Oh my God, just tell them straight up. If it's a clusterfuck, say, you know what, right now it's a clusterfuck. Because there's masochists out there that may want that, believe it or not. Like they want that challenge. They need that sort of that tool for their tool belt, right? I mean, and I'm like, I looked at Jamie.
I literally,
like there's dumbass masochists out there that would just chop at the bit for that.
Because
she loves pain.
I do, and I'll tell a quick story. But I recently changed jobs again because I was in a role where I was bored to fucking tears. And
sounds kind of appealing, to be honest with you. But
well, you
continue.
know, and
I'm still waiting on the
everyone,
negative,
including my husband, was like, enjoy this, Jamie. You've literally been balls to the walls for the last 19 years.
Visual.
Look, it's better than screw the pooch. And so now I'm in a new role. I'm literally 3 weeks in and I am so fucking busy and I'm back into like the nitty gritty, but I love this shit. I get to build my department from the ground up, put things in place that haven't, make things mine. And that's why I've always thrived in startups too. And I am that psychopath.
So you're like the person in the venture movie that has that scythe, how do you pronounce it? When you're going through the
Grand Reaper
I like
tool.
to be right behind you and take advantage of you paving that path and making it. Let me do these things. Well, I can follow that process. But Jamie loves her job.
Yeah.
Just truly, she talks about it. It's very lovely to hear.
And she's such a hard worker, has such an incredible work ethic. So you see that if you just put on that job description, you know, this is a clusterfuck. I mean, you have awesome hard workers like Jamie that'll come running. So that's really the key piece of feedback here out of this meeting is, hey, be honest with your job postings. They do not have to suck.
You know, if you take the words clusterfuck, the letters, and scramble them around, it spells Jamie Jackson. it's a fun fact.
Well, I mean, I do have like 3 full-time jobs.
But yeah, great synopsis of the meeting, Leigh. Thank you for that takeaway.
And on that note, we have a hard stop. Thank you so much for joining the meeting today.